All right, today I'm going to tell you about 3 science fiction books that I recently read that absolutely blew me away and really enlightened me and opened up my mind about what science fiction can be in terms of the quality of writing, the storytelling, narrative techniques, all kinds of great stuff. I'm really excited to talk about these today. Before I go any further, if you like my videos and if you like the books that I talk about, but you want more, please check out my Patreon. It's only $5 a month. And I go deep into the books that I read. I do a video review for every book that I read, between 10 to 20 minutes long. On Patreon, you can also find blog posts. I do audio posts. I do a newsletter, kind of experimental, different type of stuff. If you only want the videos and you only are interested in book reviews, then you can also check out a YouTube membership where I also have my book review videos available. So enough shameless plugs. Let's get into it. So this first book I read on my Kindle. It was The Employees by Olga Ravn. I think I'm pronouncing, I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly. She's a Danish novelist and poet, and I apologize for butchering that last name. This book, wow, I just finished reading this book today, and it's, wow, I don't know what else to say other than wow. It's a very peculiar book in a good way, in a great way, actually. Really captivating. Pretty provocative, I thought. Also slightly uncomfortable or discomforting or disconcerting at certain times, especially with the notion of, with a couple of notions, the two big ones being, what is humanity? Like, what is a human? And also, what is arousal and what can be erotic and that kind of thing. Very interesting book. So I should explain a little bit about it before I go off on a tangent there. And I'm not going to go too deep here because I will make a specific video review of this later. But basically, it's set in the future, and it's set on a ship called the 6000 ship. And this ship is manned by humans and humanoids. And the humanoids are synthetically engineered humans that have bodies that are basically human bodies, a little bit better though. And as far as like a brain or a mind, they also have some kind of engineered mind. So they're humanoids. They're not AIs, they're not robots, they're not androids, they are humanoids. And they're basically designed, just to kind of like do the kind of work that humans could do, but do it better. And then the humans are kind of like higher level crew on the ship. So there's an interesting thing right there. You've got a minority of people in command of a ship, and their engineered workers are the majority on the ship. Anyways, this ship is kind of roaming the galaxy, and it has a cargo of precious animal hides and strange alien objects. So it's, in my mind, it was kind of like a, I just had the word on the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember it now. There was a word for like the British and the French, I guess, explorers, or not pioneers, but in the early 1700s through the 1800s, there were French and British and all sorts of other nationalities in North America. And basically all they would do is just like go deeper and deeper and deeper into wild territory and just hunt and kill whatever they could and collect as many pelts and hides and bones and things like that as they could until they were full, and then they would go to a trading post and sell off their wares. And I think this ship is kind of similar to that they're just sort of collecting stuff until they hit a certain point, and then they'll go back and sell it, I guess. And anyways, they have found these things called the objects on a very peculiar and very beautiful planet. And from what I gathered, they took these objects from a specific valley, and now the objects have been taken out of the cargo hold and are being cleaned and kind of studied. And in the process of that, they have a very strange effect on the humans and eventually the humanoids, in that they emit scents or colors or fluids or resins that trigger a kind of erotic response in humans and also eventually in the humanoids, which is where, like, okay, so what's the difference now between human and humanoid? I'll get into that into another video. But it's a very peculiar book. Part of what makes it peculiar is that it's told entirely in the form of statements that are given, and the statements are all numbered. And interestingly enough, they don't go in numerical sequence. They kind of jump around a little bit. And you start to see kind of regular voices appear. None of the characters, well, I shouldn't say that. Some characters are named, but the person giving the statement is never named directly. But you do start to pick up patterns and you realize, oh, this is the same person that was talking earlier, and then the next one, oh, this was someone who was talking earlier, and then like, oh, this is a new person. But it's a very interesting narrative device that these are all sort of like testimonials given. And you learn quickly that there was a kind of event or a kind of conflict that arose between the people working on the ship and the company that owns the ship, or that basically sent the ship out. I'm not going to give away any more. It's a very short book. It's a little bit problematic. It's very similar to Solaris and also to Alien, but it doesn't have the body horror and the alien horror element. But there is that sort of like element of the cold corporation that doesn't really care. It just wants stuff for some nefarious reason. So great book. I'm not going to give too much more. I probably talked about it too much already. I will do a video review of this book coming up, but fantastic little book. The next one is Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. Recently read this. Fantastic book. I've got a review of this already up on Patreon or here in YouTube memberships, but I'll just talk about it a little bit. This is a great book, and what makes this book great is that similar to all these books, it doesn't really feel like science fiction. To me, this was a heist novel dressed up as a science fiction novel, and not even dressed up very well. It's just set in the future. It's clearly in Russia, although the authors don't name it as being in Russia. And basically what's happened is 6 different ships have landed in 6 different zones, one of them in a nearby city where the story is taking place. And there are people who go into these zones to smuggle out alien junk. And the junk is treated as like some kind of technological advance, if only it could be figured out what it does. And some scientists can figure out what some of these things do, but generally they have no idea what these things are, what they're dealing with. And there's all kinds of strange like phenomena inside these zones. So the people who go in, you have to have like a real steely nerve, and you got to be sort of a real tough guy to go in there. And that's where like the heist element comes through with it. And they always have to go in with a crew. They don't want to go in alone. So it's actually a really, really cool novel, really fun novel, very fast-paced read. Some interesting literary devices here too, in that each chapter is told at a different period of time and from a different perspective. Although there are, I shouldn't say that, there are some kind of recurring perspectives, but the point of view is kind of constantly shifting. So in some ways it's a tricky narrative, but it's not. It's really good, and it really touches on themes of wealth inequality, of technology, technological inequality. And of course, the title Roadside Picnic is referred to, and it kind of explained there. I won't give anything away, but basically it's theorized that humans are basically just ants at a roadside picnic, and the aliens came to the planet, dumped their garbage, and left. In much the same way that we might go on a picnic, throw some trash in the grass, and the ants go in and kind of pick it clean. So it's very much like that. So there's a lot that you can extrapolate from that. So again, another sci-fi book that doesn't really feel like science fiction. Another science fiction book written really, really well. Fantastic prose. It does not feel like typical run and gun kind of genre fiction. So great little book. And speaking of great little books, the third book I've got for you is The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula Le Guin. Science fiction master and science fiction masterpiece from Le Guin. This was my second Le Guin science fiction book. And the first one I read was The Dispossessed, which didn't really do a lot for me. I mean, I liked it and I appreciated it, but I just kind of felt like it just felt a bit stilted or a bit forced. It was very preachy. But there was some really, really good stuff in there and some really interesting concepts. This is written just so smooth. It's as smooth as butter. And again, does not feel like science fiction at all. I would actually classify it more as like speculative fiction. So it's set in the future, which is a future on Earth riddled with all the problems we have now. Overpopulation, resource scarcity, rampant inflation, pointless work, and a very medicated population. So the main character, George Orr, has developed a peculiar superpower almost in that he can have a very specific dream, and when he wakes up, that dream is real and always has been real. So it kind of erases the past in a sense. So he could dream, for instance, that that bookshelf is blue or white. And when he wakes up, the bookshelf will be blue or white, and it always has been. And everyone will remember that that bookshelf was blue or white, not black. So very, very interesting book. I'm not giving you any plot right there. I'm not going to give you any spoilers either because it is a really short book. So it's hard to talk about it without giving it away. But he goes to see a therapist, and the therapist figures out that he's able to do this and tries to kind of twist it to his own advantages. And I laugh because there are parts of the book that I thought were genuinely just funny as in like a satirical way. And I need to research it a bit. I don't know if Le Guin was trying to be funny or satirical, but in places it reads like satire of the highest order. I mean that in like the best possible way. But just a fantastic little book. It really makes you really think hard. And like the last, maybe, I'd say like the last arc of it, suddenly everything twists and spins. And it's just really, really great. It's just absolute pleasure, absolute joy to read. So all three of these books, fantastic science fiction books, great books for people who are interested in science fiction, but maybe just read a lot of literary fiction and just kind of don't know what to read and want to avoid the kind of ham-fisted, typical military sci-fi type stuff and kind of don't want the Dune type writing. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but you know, within science fiction, there are some really specific types of writing and types of books. These books, I would definitely classify as literary science fiction or even just literature kind of masquerading as science fiction. And to me, I think that's just fantastic writing. So there you go. My name's Carl. This has been Please Read Your Book. And once again, if you're interested in these books and you want deeper discussions of these, please check out my Patreon or consider becoming a member here on YouTube. And I want to say thank you very much if you've stuck with me all the way to the end.